to have their women hidden behind a veil. And I know from the conversations I've had since this kind of, it was a 7-second video and it went just super viral.
So you struck a chord, in other words, a massive chord.
Yeah. And the women who have to live behind this veil, they claim that those that say it's out of choice is never out of choice. And I think I've seen it more. In fact, I've had emails from people who say they see it more in this country than maybe in Kuwait. You know, there's more women behind the veil in London than there would be in some of the Middle Eastern countries. Clearly not in Saudi Arabia, where all women seem to be hidden behind it, although it's not a law, but it is imposed by men in the family at threat of death.
Yeah, well, this is the other element of the argument, you know, against the ban, and you know, I'm sort of ostensibly slightly torn insofar as, you know, I don't like rules and regulations, and I don't like the idea of laws that tell women or anybody what they can and cannot wear.
Yeah.
That said, because I've seen what you've been tweeting, the stories of so many women in the burqas, you know, saying that they don't want to be wearing these things. So that said, the libertarian in me wants people to be allowed to wear whatever they want, not have the government get involved. However, I think that the burqa, the face cover burqa, in whatever form it is a symbol of a sign, if you like, that women are second-class citizens, have to do what men tell them. Also, this nonsensical medieval claptrap that should a man see the skin of a woman's face, he will be consumed by uncontrollable lust and attack. I mean, we can't, in this country, allow that kind of medieval nonsense to prevail. So I'm worried about that. And I think more than that, it is how many women behind these burqas actually want to be like that. So they'll always say, well, it's their choice. They do it voluntarily. Well, actually what happens to these women is around about the age of 11 or 12, their parents stick the damn things on, and that's it. So before they even fully reach puberty, they're getting their brains washed about you have to wear this. So the issue is, you know, do we want this symbol that consigns women to sort of second-class citizenship? And do women want to wear it? Are they wearing this voluntarily? I think the answer to those two questions are yes and no.
Well, I've never been called naked so many times as I have over the last couple of weeks from men who object to me raising the issue. They'll sort of call me naked because, you know, I might have my hands showing, or my neck, or my face, or my ankles. And I think that's another thing to consider. If some women are fully covered, then it makes other women look uncovered, if you like. Maybe it makes us naked in the eyes of those men. And actually, I think if in those cultures both men and women were fully covered, I think we could argue something else, that it was freedom of expression. But actually, we have all sorts of rules about what you can and can't wear. Like, I'd like them to be a bit stricter, to be quite honest. And it really does go against some of my views about freedom of expression. But, you know, we're not allowed to wear sort of, you can't walk down the street in a G-string, for example, because that's indecent. And I would argue that it is indecent to cover a woman as if she can't be seen because it's improper and immodest. And she therefore is inviting the sin of men. You know, it's her fault if those men look upon her and have lustful thoughts. It's her fault for showing her face. And we just can't get into that.
It's nonsense. It's just nonsense. It's medieval claptrap, absolute nonsense. And, you know, we have to think about whether or not, you know, we want to be a country that sanctions that kind of thing, enshrines that, if you like. But as I say, the question is so they'll always argue, the defenders of the burqa, so well, they do it voluntarily, it's their choice. Do you want laws against what people wear? As you say, there are laws against what people wear. You can't walk down the street with a t-shirt with a swastika on it, for example, as you quite rightly say. There's actually a law that says you do have to wear clothes. You can't not wear clothes. So laws about apparel are there, they're not unknown. So we could potentially make laws about this. There is, of course, also, Kelly, the argument that there are security risks, identification risks. But, the women wearing the full burqa or any of the burqas, the face-covering burqas, they're kind of extracted, aren't they, from society? They can't really get a job. They can't go and work in an office. They can't sort of, socialise normally. So I think that's a worry as well, isn't it? It sort of cuts them off. And as I say, it sort of consigns them to a sort of second-class citizenship. Why are they wearing this? Because men demand it. And that doesn't stick right with me.
No. Well, it's instantly dehumanising, because I think what you see is a burqa. You don't see a woman, you don't think about how old is she, you don't think about anything about her, you don't know if she's smiling at you, you don't know, you wouldn't probably interact, you wouldn't strike up a conversation if you're at a bus stop. There's not the normal things where, obviously outside of London, where people do speak to each other, you're not going to start a conversation with a woman in a burqa because she just has this barrier. So there's not the tiny little bits of communication that we sort of take for granted. Even if it's sort of screwing your nose up at something, you can't get anything from a woman in a burqa. And I've sort of made it my business since having all of these testimonies. I'm telling you, I don't think I've ever literally sort of had tears and cried at reading someone's testimony. And I read the testimony of this young woman, and she said, I don't have any memories from outside of this house, because she is not allowed even to go out in the garden just in case a neighbour sees her face. And she only knows what day it is by looking at the calendar.
It's right. I got a text. We had a debate last week. I got a text from a viewer, an audience member, a woman saying that she lives next door to a Muslim family, and they had a lovely little girl playing in the garden, used to play with her kids as well. And around about the age of 11, one day coming out the front door was not a little girl, it was this burqa'd person, and she never saw that girl again. And I've been reading some of your testimonies on Twitter that you've been posting on social media, and what it reveals to me is that many women who have to wear the burqa don't want to. So that's what we have to take into account. Are we going to sanction a system by which women are forced to wear something they don't want to wear?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think for the very few women, for whatever reason that they choose it, we know that nothing's a free choice. Like, I'm sat here with a face full of makeup. I know.
Me too.
But I know that isn't like a truly 100% free choice, and it's all sort of the society in which I live. But that doesn't, I'm not at threat of violence or being ostracized from my family or going to hell if I don't wear makeup, or if I do wear makeup. There's sort of heavy weight behind it, and the burqa there is, so it can never be a truly free choice. So I think in a democracy where we really do want people to get along, and where we actually have some value, where we say women are equal, we can't be okay with women existing behind the veil.
Yeah, and when Sarah Pochin put that question to the Prime Minister, of course, he said, oh, I'm not going to follow you down that line, terrified. And when she actually asked that question, I think it's a very valid question. I thought she did a great job. It's opening up a debate that this nation needs to have, I think, as a matter of some urgency. The House of Commons fell into this shocked, hushed silence, as if she'd committed some great taboo. So we have a bunch of representatives of the people who refuse to discuss this out of terror that they may be accused of Islamophobia. So I think that you're doing a great job. Sarah Poach is doing a great job. Doing my best as well myself. We've got to talk about this, and we mustn't let Keir Starmer and the gang close this debate down. One last point before you go back to one of your normal topics. The members of the National Education Union, teachers, have today been told, or yesterday they were told, there is no legal definition of biological sex, and therefore you can carry on, treating trans women, men who wear dresses, as if they are genuinely women. But there is a legal definition of biological sex now. The Supreme Court came up with it 3 weeks ago, didn't they?
Oh, I think they came up with, I think it was in the Equality Act from the off, and I think we all knew what it was, and you'd have to be pretty spectacularly stupid not to know that in an act where you have gender reassignment as one category, which I don't agree with, but it's in there, and you have sex in another, that sex didn't mean biological sex. Like, you'd have to need to sort of go back to primary school yourself if you didn't understand that that's what it meant. And I think teachers and teaching colleges or universities now, although they probably shouldn't be universities, because it does feel that they're really quite incoherent, not very well educated. And the union was, back in 2016, a man called David Hayton. He wrote the school's guidance that put men in women's spaces and forced children to call a man like himself she.
Amazon Prime Day is from the 8th to the 11th of July. 4 days of big deals. Join Prime now.
Fire TV has so many great recommendations.
Yeah, serves up the best options from all my apps in one place. It's like it knows what I want to watch before I do.
The orangutans have escaped the zoo. They're everywhere!
Picture quality is amazing. So lifelike.
Yeah, you can search by genre, movie, actor.
Huh, that's convenient.
Alexa, show me newly released movies.
Sweet.
Get into more of what you're into with Fire TV.